Hello, friends. I have a little bit of a heavy heart, but a hopeful heart, a light heart, all of the hearts. This is episode 241 of what used to be Women Seeking Wholeness, which launched in February of 2019. And then it changed to Stand, Speak, Shine. Then almost a year ago, it morphed into the Soul Rose Show, where ancient feminine wisdom meets the modern path of soul evolution. And so after hundreds of interviews at this point, I have come to the place where I'm taking my own medicine. And what that looks like is following my own ancient feminine wisdom as I meet my modern path of soul evolution. I've gotten a lot of clarity lately around what my next steps are and what I need to release or put on hold or, come back to. There's many, many layers to what I'm being told to take off my plate at the moment. After almost 6 years of podcasting, this is my final episode of the Soul Rose Show. And that doesn't mean I'm letting go of my YouTube channel or anything like that. But as far as this podcast platform, it feels like it has served its purpose and it's time for me to move forward. And I have cherished the amazing people that I've had the privilege of interviewing. When I started this podcast, I was what you would call in the middle of a big fat faith crisis, more like a truth crash, which is actually a portal to awakening from what I understand and have learned. It's also messy. It can be quite disorienting and destabilizing. Some people call it the dark night, but it wasn't just about religion and it wasn't just about all the ideological constructs I've gathered throughout my life. It was an awakening into who I am, who we all are, what's happening here, what this is all about, and the trajectory really of the soul, meaning, we're here to remember who we are. We're here to wake up to love. We're here to connect to our own authentic essence and experience deep transformation and inner awakening. That's, I believe, what the point of life is. And with that authentic essence, we are love. We are truth. We embody those things. We are wisdom and power. As I sort of culminate or wrap up this podcast platform, I want to talk a little bit about feminine awakening. Just after all these years of studying about it, you're it. You're the one the world's been waiting for. It's your frequency and vibration. It's not what you accomplish. It's not what you do. You've been positioned exactly where you need to be to raise the frequency around you, wherever you're stationed. It starts inside of you through activating, you could call them dormant codes. You can call them latent gifts. There's many, many names for what I'm talking about, but it isn't about anything exterior. It's not about making your home more beautiful, not about your kids achieving something. If you're a mother, it's you. You're it. You're the source and center of your own world in connection with the source or the all. And I've worked those masculine models of achievement for a lot of years of my life. High success, high achieving, goal orientation. They don't work for me anymore. I can't do them. I honor the healthy masculine, but the globe is going through a planetary crisis, literally streaming feminine consciousness in for a new feminine leadership paradigm. And this is happening in men. This is happening in women. I think now things are kind of ramping up in the uncertainty department. We have this fear of what's ahead. And let's be honest, the world is freaking out. But in reality, this is a hugely exciting time in history because of this uncertainty, because we're creating it. Like I was saying about those old ideological constructs being passed down through the patriarchy, those old models are dying. And so we have to shift out of this sort of masculine dominant frequency to find our way out of the mess. The way of the goddess isn't about robbing Peter to pay Paul. In other words, sacrificing family to make a difference or make more money. It's not about having mom guilt and trying to, make your roles so idealized and so perfect. That is the old way of thinking. It's not about your roles that you're playing. It's not about what kind of business you choose or how your family looks or, any of those exterior roles that we play. Our roles are not who we are. Family life and professional life are not separate in this feminine leadership paradigm. Women's brains light up like Christmas trees. We can't separate these. We're meant to govern in both domains without burnout. So the way of feminine leadership is to embrace restorative models. And when I say your path, purpose, mission, business, any of it, your mission is something you want to do. It's calling to you. Therefore, it is a calling. It's something you have to do to feel fulfilled or fully reach your potential. Some people's callings are like mine, doing stuff like writing, speaking, whatever. or starting a business. Others' callings are just merely to hold a certain frequency, and that's it. And neither one of these is easy. They both require, I guess you could say, a level of spiritual discipline or dedication or devotion and consistency. But it doesn't matter what role you're called to play, everything is valuable equally. So when you change your frequency or when you wake up to who you are, which naturally elevates your frequency, you're elevating the collective. None of us are singular, alone, or separate. We're all one. We're all connected through, you could say, the light of Christ, Christ consciousness, source light. There's many names for it. And once I really got this, I developed a whole new theory on depression. I've spent my whole career, over 20 years, trying to crack the code on depression and breaking family patterns of mental illness through epigenetics and whatnot. And here's what I found. Frequency waves carry information. Those waves are embedded in our energy fields. So when you say, I am love, you're activating something inside of you, even if you don't yet believe it. The school of thought about this in epigenetics is that information from your environment signals your genes to turn off or on based on that information. And then coherence fields and frequency waves can literally change that genetic expression. You can repattern the frequency waves of your genetic codes so that the illnesses that you've quote unquote inherited do not have to dominate. Those genes do not have to express. And I'm bringing this up because we really are in this new era where things are speeding up so quickly and things are being brought to light that are ready to be healed, released, let go of, or magnified and expanded. Whatever it is, if it's distortion, it's on its way out. If it's truth and illumination, it's being brought in. And it's like the pendulum is really shifting in this department. And that's why I always advocate for the middle path, being in the middle and being able to not marginalize or alienate ourselves or other people, but to embrace it all. And that doesn't mean I'm agreeing with everything. It means stop putting people in camps. Stop warring with ideas and beliefs. This is what has gotten us to the place we're at. What we really need are more people in touch with their creative brilliance to speak up. We need to hear their voices. And the more that we hear these intuitive, grounded voices, especially I would say of the feminine, the more open we tend to become to the changes that need to be happening. The more we're exposed, the more we're being drip-fed truth from someone's authentic center versus regurgitated information that's been passed down historically that really hasn't been serving us. So if anything, we become doubly empowered because we're embracing, I guess, the healthy masculine or the healthy yang force within us, and then the healthy feminine or yin forces. And those start to harmonize and recalibrate us at the cellular level, at the quantum level. Some of the biggest, I guess you could say, ahas for me is what I call this, I'm not the one that coined the term, but the I-thou relationship. This is about tuning in to the divine inside of you, which is just pure. It's in everyone. It's quite buried and layered, and we get complexity around it because we try to second guess it or squash it down, or we sometimes are afraid of it. But when you are aligned and grounded, and by grounded, I mean just being rooted and being here in those lower chakra centers and just being like, okay, I'm here on earth now. I'm here. I have a right to be here. And we stay connected to the real, which is earth, nature, our relationships, our bodies. And then from that space of being grounded, we are now rooted so that we can express, be ourselves. I meet so many creatives who do not know what they want. And I used to be there too. It's just such a state of limbo for your soul, and it can create so much dissonance and depression at the soul level, because you're so focused on making it okay for everybody that you haven't climbed in enough to ask, what do I actually want? We really are searching for feelings as humans. That's what we really want. We want an emotional experience, not things, but the things we think are going to give us that emotional experience. So what we're really searching for are these pure, undiluted feelings that make us feel alive. So getting in touch with what you wish to feel, your highest value of experience, is where it's at. And I teach 12 feminine embodiment principles in my Stand, Speak, Shine course. And it's self-paced, and you can really dive into each one of these 12, but I'm just going to name them out. And you can get the bullet pointed highlighted version by listening to this. But of course, if you want to dive more deeply, you can go to standspeakshine.com and find that course. Number 1, connection. Connection is always first. It's at the center of all. We need connection to thrive and grow. And I would say these connection points are with the divine. They're with ourselves, which are sometimes one and the same, depending on how deep we go. And that's the I-thou relationship I referenced. But it's about coming and learning to understand and hear your own soul voice, asking things like, what is the sacred feminine? What is intimacy? Into me, I see, those kinds of things. So connection is first, connect. Second is personal power. Again, this is all about that grounding. When I mean being grounded and rooted, I don't mean like your feet to the earth kind of thing. I mean connecting to your deep inner wisdom, which for women is in that second chakra, the womb wisdom. And also finding that kingdom within in the heart. These are your sources of power, not your mind necessarily, but your heart and your womb space. The third is nourishment. And this is where you get into this beautiful space of healing and flow through sustenance, through putting things into your life that bring flow, because all healing is merely flow, blood flow, lymph flow, oxygen. Things flow, and that means movement, and that means feeling alive. So that comes with nourishment, giving yourself sustenance. For me, this means all things earth, Mother Earth, all things sacred medicine. And that brings me to the fourth, when I talk about sacred medicine, alchemy. Alchemy is taking something and transmuting it from one form to another. And I specifically mean in this context, when I'm talking about sacred medicine or alchemy, the alchemization of your emotions. Our emotions are what keeps us human. And I've spent a huge part of my career diving into how we can release unwanted emotions, how emotions teach us, how they're formed in the body, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of science there. But our emotions are sending us signals of what needs to be felt and experienced in this body. So that's number 4. Number 5 is sensuality. Now, this is not just about sexuality, although that's part of it. I'm talking more about that sensing of your aliveness through the portals of your senses, your 5 senses. And part of this is about feminine magnetism, the art of drawing to you. This is part of that new feminine leadership paradigm I was talking about. You're in a new frequency, and through that frequency, you're now drawing a similar frequency to you. It's been said you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. So sensuality is the art of living through your senses and noticing and deep, deep listening. Number 6 is about containment, which is all about setting boundaries. Super powerful practice, probably the kindest thing that you can do for yourself and others. When I think about containment, I think about sitting on like an inner throne, like you're this queenly being inside of yourself, sitting on this inner throne in your courtyard, and you decide what comes in and what stays out. Some have referenced this as kind of a state of inner poise. So containment, containing your energy, keeping your reserves, setting boundaries. It's really important. Number 7 is about the descent. It's a necessary part of initiation onto your soul path. And this is really where depth, the meaning of depth, comes in. Some people call this the dark night of the soul. I prefer to think of it as a sacred feminine initiation. The level to which you descend and allow yourself to be held in this frequency of the unknown. And this is part of the awakening, right? The level to which you allow yourself to descend is the level at which you go to the depths of awareness and understanding while being held by the divine, is the level to which you, quote unquote, ascend or transcend the cares of your body in the world. It doesn't mean that you bypass. It means that you allow yourself to descend and not know something for a while, maybe years. I've certainly have different periods in my life where I have gone into the descent. It's not a one-time deal. None of these are linear either, by the way. They come and go based on what's happening in the planets, in the heavens, planetary alignment, cosmic movement, those kind of things. And we are multisensory beings, so these are contingent upon how we're reacting to our environment, how our genes are expressing, epigenetically. But by and large, your soul will assess its level of readiness and put you onto the path of the descent when you're ready, when your supports are in place, and when it's time for you to go to the next level. So that's number 7, is the depth or the descent journey. Number 8 is beauty. I'm not just talking about your physical beauty, but women do have a need to feel beautiful. And I would say even the visual piece of this, the aesthetics, we have a need for beauty in and around us. We need this, I guess you could say, Some people call it adornment or refinement or radiance. All of those are factors in our lives of understanding and growth about how we personally express and how our beauty is unique. In the course, I go into this really deeply with radiance, what lights you up, what illuminates you and gives you not only the aesthetic beauty, but helps you feel beautiful. Number 9, my favorite word, sovereignty. Well, it's actually not my favorite word. My favorite word is beloved, but sovereignty is way up there. Sovereignty to me is all about claiming inner authority and inner dominion, being the master and commander of your own domain in integrity. And that's what separates sovereignty from selfishness. How do you claim your own inner authority? How do you have dominion over all of your life domains? That's sovereignty. That's sort of the emancipation, if you will, of your soul from outer structures and just really stepping into your own authenticity. Number 10 is creativity. This is probably my favorite one, if I'm being honest. Not just creative like with what you create with your hands, but your voice. We have to voice our creativity, get what's inside of us out. You have to start manifesting the frequencies within you, something unexpressed. The seeds of something waiting to be created are living within you. You have to look into your soul through solitude and inner awareness, or even, stillness, and examine your calling to keep getting more and more clarity on that. Number 11, and this goes hand in hand with creativity, and is expression. Inspiration without expression equals depression. 10 and 11 are they're very closely married, but what I mean by expression and how it differentiates from just straight creativity is your authenticity. You have a very specific frequency that wants to express in a very specific way and in very specific forms and places. So expression kind of dies without inspiration. And we need to be inspired. We need to be lit up. We need to be waking up our souls with what we're passionate about. So I'd say that's the kind of where expression lives. It's like, if I don't get what's inside of me, outside of me, I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to self-implode. That's literally, you guys, why I started this podcast in 2019, right after I turned 50, because there were things going on inside of me and things I needed to say. The beginning of my podcast was kind of messy. I said some things that, I was like, oh, should I pull that episode? Or that guest said something I didn't agree with or whatever. And I had to just let myself be messy. Creation's like that. When we're in the middle of something that we're creating, it's paint all over the floor of the Sistine Chapel. If we're using Michelangelo as an example here, the potter's clay, everything's messy. Babies being born and getting created and stuff, it's all messy. So this isn't a clean process, your expression. But when you allow yourself that imperfection or that messiness or those chinks in your works of art, that allows you to breathe on the soul level and expand so that next time you come back to it, it has more life in it and you can mold it into your own masterpiece, which is just your way of being. It's not even what you're making on the outside. It's your own way of being. And the final step, number 12, not step, but the final principle of embodiment is wisdom. Here I am, I'm on earth, I've claimed my space, my past has given me all this wisdom, and I'll continue to cultivate it. So this is how you show up, really, is embodied wisdom. And remember, these are embodiment practices and ways of being, not just principles. As you look at yourself, men, women, everyone, there's one deep question you need to ask. How are you experiencing yourself? Are you in love with your own being, your own heart? Are you in love with your own frequency and essence? There's a Hindu Sanskrit term I love, Tat Svam Asi, meaning you are it. Everything that you're seeking is already inside of you. It just needs excavating. You have source. You are divine. You are a divine soul. You're it. And the claiming of that can feel messy and painful. It took me wrestling around on the floor in blood, sweat, snot, and tears for years. Imagine a kaleidoscope. Imagine the very center of the kaleidoscope is you claiming the I am. All the frequency patterns that you create from that knowing creates waves upon patterns, energetically moving you into divine order. And then you become the goddess of your own life domain. There's a lot more to all these principles. And like I said, I have a 12-week course, one principle a week. We dive into it. It's called Stand, Speak, Shine. And you can find this self-led 3-month powerful transformation program on my website, either standspeakshine.com or cherieburton.com. And now I will go into a period of my own little soul respite. Well, I will take to task all of these embodiment principles I've been teaching all these years and rest into my manuscript, finishing that up and getting that refined and edited into my publisher. And I don't know. I mean, I've written so many pages already, well over 1,000. I don't even know, but I'm now whittling down and getting right to the heart of what my story is. I highly recommend writing a timeline of your life, looking for these patterns, looking for markers and symbols and little divine breadcrumbs along the path of your life between all the losses you've experienced, all the triumphs. I'll probably start to paint a flowing picture for you, a living dynamic illustration, if you will, of how your soul is evolving and what players are coming onto the stage of your life, kind of like your own little map of consciousness. You can see how you've been guided, how even the most painful lessons have been part of this evolutionary process. This evolutionary impulse is so alive and so strong in each one of us. You know, the caterpillar forming naturally into that butterfly. We're all in this powerful, transformative, and transcendent process. But we're also human beings. And we're here to learn what it means to be fully human and fully divine, which is a principle from Mary Magdalene's gospel that I love so much. So as I go into my own little cocoon and metamorphose and write and wrestle and attune to nature, taking a step back from a lot of my social media, of course, this podcast and other projects that I've been involved in, I look forward to reconnecting when the time is right. I will still, like I said, have things on YouTube here and there. And I'm not playing the social media game anymore. I'm not looking at algorithms and all of that. I'm merely going to just express what wants to be expressed, even if it's only for myself or my family. But when I feel moved or inspired to put it out there, just know that it's because I really, really value it, or I feel called to share it rather than being compelled to share it, if that makes sense. So remember, healing is flow. The highest path is not achievement, it's integration. It's embracing your imperfections. It's not perfection. You are already whole. You just have to remember it and let it stream in. Thank you so much to my listeners. Maybe this is your first exposure to my podcast. You can go back and listen. There's over 240 episodes of beautiful truths and people's stories and new awarenesses that I think will help you along this healing path, this integration path. Thank you so much. Sending love to all of you.